not to cut Medicaid or Social Security. Over and over again, the president said in his campaign he's not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. This budget does just that. So we are sending the president a letter that says, reject this budget based on the promises of your campaign. Reject any cut in this budget to Medicare or Medicaid because you promised the American people that you would. And we await the president's answer.
We beat the Trump healthcare scam twice, and we're going to beat him a third time on his tax scam. Republican plans to bust the budget to pay for the giveaways to the ultra-wealthy and the multinational companies is a recipe for disaster that would put the social safety net in tatters.
President Trump said during his campaign, I'm a different type of Republican. I'm not Paul Ryan. Hey, I'm a new type of Republican. I'm not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Well, Mr. President, that's what you told the American people. And I hope that today you will announce loudly and clearly that any bill containing cuts to Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security will be vetoed. Stop your friends in the Republican Party in the Senate and the House from wasting their time. Tell them you're going to veto that legislation because that is what you told the American people. But this legislation is not just about cutting Medicaid and Medicare. It's about cutting billions of dollars from the low-income home energy assistance program at a time when so many of our young people can't afford to go to college. And some of us think we should make public colleges and universities tuition free. This legislation would cut $100 billion in Pell Grants, making it harder for young people to afford to go to college. It would cut the Women, Infant, and Children's Program. Low-income pregnant women who now get help to have healthy babies, they would see that program cut. So we have got to rally the American people to defeat this horrific legislation, which represents the priorities of the Koch brothers and billionaires. And we need legislation and a budget that stands with the middle class and working families of this country.
Can I ask you about, there's a proposal in this budget to open drilling in Anwar. It's been some time since Republicans have proposed in the Senate opening up Anwar. How do you see that playing out this time? Do Senate Democrats have the ability to attract moderates and block it again?
Well, I think it's going to be a tough fight for them to do it. There are some Republicans who have expressed, at least privately, some distaste for opening up Anwar. And their job is as long as they continue on the path of just trying to do this all with Republican votes, they just run into trouble every which way they turn. That's what happened with health care. That's going to happen here. And yet, again, because the hard right is so strong, they cannot put together a mainstream budget. They can't get the votes on the Republican side to do it. And I don't think the Republican leadership at this point, has the political ability or the strength to try and put together a bipartisan plan. I don't know, you want to say something, Nancy?
Well, I did want to get back to the original question about why they do this. It's in their DNA. This is what they believe. Trickle-down economics is why they come to Washington. Eliminating, letting Medicare wither on the vine has been their mantra. As President Speaker, as chair of the Budget Committee, had the elimination of the Medicare guarantee in his proposal. Many of the members here voted to privatize Social Security. So understand that. But the opportunity cost of all of this, and this is what we're about in our budget, and I commend Mr. Yarmouth on our budget in the House and Mr. Sanders in the Senate. This is about opportunity, and this is about opportunity cost. One of the things they want to do is cut education. One of the dumbest things, with stiff competition, mind you, one of the dumbest things that they are proposing is to cut education, because nothing brings more money to the Treasury than investments in education, early childhood, K through 12, higher ed, lifetime learning for our workers. And that's the education that all of our colleagues have talked, that's the opportunity all of our colleagues have talked about that is missed in this budget. So when you ask about drilling and all the rest of that, understand that their motivation is what they believe. Starve the beast. We want to eliminate domestic investments, to give money to the high end to benefit their sponsors, the fossil fuel industry, the gun industry. You just look at where the money flows to them, and you will see where their heart is on these issues. And it's not at the kitchen table with America's working families addressing their concerns.
Leader Pelosi, do you think that your deal with Trump on the DREAM Act and border security is in trouble? Conservatives and the Republican Party who had dinner with him the other night seem to think it's moving in a different direction.
Well, Mr. Schumer last night said on a show that we were on, if the president is walking away from it, he should tell us. But
right.
I believe that the president will commit to it. You know why? Because the American people are there. They believe in the dreamers. They understand that this isn't who we are as a country to send these people who came here as young people, and this is now their country. It's a beautiful thing that we would do this. And those people who said what they said, they weren't in the room. They couldn't possibly know. We know what the president said. We believe that he is committed to that. What we haven't finished is the work on the security aspects of it. But on the DREAM Act, the president is committed. And as we also know, at our first meeting, the debt ceiling meeting, the president said, if I get the DREAM Act, I will sign it into law. At the next
That was
meeting.
the DREAM Act. That was the Durbin-Graham bill, not any modification. I just say one more thing here. What happened, the president said what he said the day after, and go look it up. Mulvaney confirmed that what we said when we came out was accurate. That's
Contrary to
Mulvaney.
what he said today.
Yeah.
He wouldn't hesitate to disagree with the president, but he agreed with him that day.
Okay. And here's the bottom line. The hard right doesn't want to do dreamers. Will the president stand up for what he knows is the right thing to do against the hard right? Or is he going to let the hard right kill it? And that's relevant to what we're talking about here. The president has a choice. And that is, does he go along with the hard right, which he has for his first 8 months or 9 months, and his presidency's been a failure and he's gotten nothing done as a result? Because what the hard right believes, whether it's on health care or taxes, is not what America believes. That's why they're trying to hide this. They didn't come out and say, we're proud to cut Medicare to reduce the deficit. They didn't even tell you about it. We had to bring it up. They don't come out and say, today we had, Gary Cohn, who knows better, saying the wealthy are not getting a tax break. They can't tell the truth about their plan because they know it's so unpopular. What would be an honest debate is they say, look, we believe when we cut taxes on the wealthy people that there's going to be a lot of job growth. Now, we can argue that. I've pointed out Kansas as the experiment that failed. But at least they'd have an honest argument. But they don't. Whether it's dreamers or whether it's health care or whether it's tax reform, they're afraid to say what they're really proposing because the American people are so far away from the hard right that nothing the hard right wants will pass. And that is going to be true of tax reform as well.
Now,
Thank
you
you.
say of the
Last, we're
outside
going to take the
groups
last.
that they are putting out this message as well, the same folks who helped us defeat their monstrosity of health reform. But I'll say one thing, what everybody has said here, this is deceptive. It is reckless. It is wrong for our country. Yield.
Yeah,
Thank-
last comment for Ron Wyden, then we got to go vote.
Thank you to both leaders. Both Andrew and Laura, I think, are touching on this question of can you predict what it is they're going to do? What we've seen again and again when there are two forks in the road, they take the most extreme one and they walk all over even the history of the people they most admire. I got to tell you, this tax plan that the Republicans have offered makes Ronald Reagan look like a rabid socialist. Ronald Reagan said for purposes of taxes, we're going to treat somebody with a wage and investments exactly the same way. So I think both Andrew, you and Laura both have asked the same question. Every time we get to a fork in the road, they take the most extreme approach and they walk all over, frankly, the history